The Sign of Four, A Dance with Darkness. The fog clung to Baker Street like a cold, unyielding specter, its damp tendrils twisting through the gaslit streets and seeping into the cracks of broken souls. For Sherlock Holmes, the gloom was not merely outside but within, a reflection of the creeping despair consuming him. Clouds of cocaine fumes coiled from his nostrils, a counterfeit comfort for the once vital fire that had defined him. Dr. Watson, ever the watchman of Holmes's decaying humanity, looked on with an uneasy cocktail of worry and resignation. "Holmes," Watson said softly, breaking the heavy silence. "This brooding will not solve the mystery." Holmes's icy gaze remained fixed on the fog-draped window, his silhouette barely stirring. "The Sign of Four," he whispered, the words cutting like shards of glass. "A peculiar affair, my dear Watson. A peculiar and troubling affair." The storm brewing within Holmes had been set into motion by the arrival of Miss Mary Morstan, a figure as otherworldly as the pearls she spoke of. Her quiet grace, offset by eyes clouded with the weight of unspoken fears, demanded attention. For 4 years, on the anniversary of her father's disappearance, an anonymous hand had delivered a flawless, glistening pearl. The 5th pearl came with more, a cryptic invitation to meet a mysterious benefactor. Holmes, ever the predator in pursuit of riddles, took to the case with an almost manic fervor. Their path led them to Major Sholto, a former officer tied to Captain Morstan, Mary's vanished father. Yet fate had beaten them to the man. Sholto lay dead in his study, fingers convulsing around a small, ornate box as if grasping for absolution. Within the box lay a mosaic of secrets, a yellowing map of an Indian fortress, names of 4 convicts etched like ghosts of vengeance: Jonathan Small, Muhammad Singh, Abdullah Khan, and Dost Akbar, and the uneasy specter of treasure long buried but never forgotten. Within the box lay a mosaic of secrets, a yellowing map of an Indian fortress, names of 4 convicts etched like ghosts of vengeance: Jonathan Small, Muhammad Singh, Abdullah Khan, and Dost Akbar, and the uneasy specter of treasure long buried but never forgotten. Within the box lay a mosaic of secrets, a yellowing map of an Indian fortress, names of 4 convicts etched like ghosts of vengeance: Jonathan Small, Muhammad Singh, Abdullah Khan, and Dost Akbar, and the uneasy specter of treasure long buried but never forgotten. Death struck again before the smoke of discovery could settle. Thaddeus Sholto, the Major's estranged brother, met a brutal end in his own home. His killer? A fearsome figure of grotesque proportions, a nocturnal predator known only as Tonga, who melted into the night like a phantom. The single trace he left behind, a sinister, 4-pronged brand scorched onto his wrist, hinted that the secrets of the Agra treasure were clawing their way into the present. For Holmes, the chase now carried a compulsive urgency. Watson, loyal and steadfast, followed his friend down increasingly shadowed paths, but he could not fail to notice the growing dissonance in Holmes's demeanor. The detective, fueled by nicotine and cocaine, seemed less a man of reason and more a force consumed by obsession. The treasure map's crude markings led Holmes and Watson to a rotting barge on the tumultuous waters of the River Thames. The scent of decay mingled with the damp air, creating an oppressive atmosphere that suited the horrors it concealed. Within the whispering timbers, they uncovered a hidden compartment bursting with jewels and glittering gold. The fabled Agra treasure, a hoard drenched in betrayal and blood. But as the treasure's gleam caught the lamplight, shadows deepened, and Jonathan Small stepped into view, eyes blazing with old grudges. Small was no mere antagonist. He was a man poisoned by decades of festering vengeance. The confrontation turned violent, a furious clash spilling across the rooftops and ultimately descending back to the murky banks of the Thames. And yet the nightmare wore another face. Tonga, the embodiment of savagery, moved like a beast unshackled from the world's rules. His attack was swift, his aim fatal, but Holmes, a man of brilliant precision even on the precipice of self-destruction, outmaneuvered him. The assassin fell, and with him the curtain closed on this chapter of terror. While the Agra treasure was secured, and Miss Mary Morstan found freedom from her years of torment, sharing a tender bond with Watson, Holmes bore the cost. His immortal mind, so often an unbreakable fortress, had been breached. The scene of Tonga's lifeless form, the primal hatred in the man's eyes, lingered like a ghost. Holmes saw within him the same darkness he fought to suppress within himself, a darkness that whispered of the fragile boundary between reason and madness, hunter and hunted. As the echoes of victory faded, Holmes withdrew into the recesses of his psyche, retreating to the needle and the smoke. Watson, The steadfast chronicler of his friend's exploits could only watch with hollow despair as the man he admired sank into an abyss from which he might never emerge. The sign of 4 was no mere case. It was a revelation. It exposed the fissures in Holmes's armor, fractures widened not by revelations of greed or treasure, but by the existential confrontation with human depravity. The savage reflection of Tonga was a mirror too truthful to bear, and its weight bore deeply into Holmes's psyche. Watson gazed at Holmes across the dim confines of 221B Baker Street as the detective brooded once more, his focus vaporized by clouds of opiates. For a fleeting moment, Watson considered speaking, breaking the quiet that felt so thick with unspoken truths. But he realized there were no words to mend the cracks that had formed. The friend he had known before the sign of 4 might already be lost. This reimagining of the sign of 4 does not merely delve into its mystery. It plumbs the abyss of the human heart. For lovers of thrillers and dark storytelling, it is a testament to how even heroes are not immune to the shadows that claw at men's souls. Holmes's journey is one of inspiration and warning, proof of brilliance tarnished by obsession and of victory tainted by the echoes of inner conflict. Yet, it also reminds us of resilience. The human spirit, though fragile, persists in seeking light even through swirling shades of doom. In the roiling fog of Victorian London, redemption lies somewhere between the beats of Holmes's oscillating brilliance and despair, an unresolved tension that makes him the perfect muse for those who embrace the dark and seek meaning amidst enigmas. In the roiling fog of Victorian London, redemption lies somewhere between the beats of Holmes's oscillating brilliance and despair, an unresolved tension that makes him the perfect muse for those who embrace the dark and seek meaning amidst enigmas. In the roiling fog of Victorian London, redemption lies somewhere between the beats of Holmes's oscillating brilliance and despair, an unresolved tension that makes him the perfect muse for those who embrace the dark and seek meaning amidst enigmas. Will Sherlock Holmes rise above the abyss, or will it consume him entirely? That question lingers in the hearts of those entranced by his story, a fitting legacy for a tale as dark and enthralling as the sign of 4.